Despite a lukewarm reception at launch, the announcement of an upcoming story DLC for Dying Light 2 has been enough to keep the fans engaged with Techland's adventure. The recent delay, however, has raised concerns about the game's situation. But in reality, it should be taken as a positive thing. Why, you ask? Well, keep on watching to find out. First up, Dying Light 2's botched launch has been a cause for concern. Dying Light 2 was one of those games that you'd hear about at every single convention and game showcase. Despite seeing it a million times though, it almost felt unreal as Techland kept pushing the release date back over and over again. Not only that, but the zombie survival genre was also experiencing a bit of fatigue, especially after 7 Days to Die and State of Decay 2. So by the time we got to launch, the odds were already stacked against Dying Light 2. Oh, and let's not even open the can of worms that was the month of February, which had other massive releases like Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West. With that said, while these things did definitely affect the hype and launch cycle for the game, we didn't actually see much of a decline in projected sales. Plus, Techland kinda had a clear run for like a week or two anyway. The real issue arose, however, when people actually got their hands on the game and realized how broken it was. No, it wasn't quite a repeat of Cyberpunk 2077, but the bugs were still significant enough to ruin the overall experience. In fact, Dying Light 2 had a ton of game-breaking bugs that'd literally stop you from progressing through the story. And obviously, the reviewers knew that too, which led to a pretty mediocre Metacritic score. So after a botched launch like that, even a DLC announcement wasn't enough to rile the fans back up again. Also, the delay just added fuel to the rumors that Techland's got a lot of internal issues and hasn't been able to develop the game as fast as they'd want. Having said that, there's a good side to this as well. Next, Techland can take all the time in the world for Dying Light 2 DLC. Now, with the first story DLC for the game, there's no rush to meet an arbitrary deadline for Techland. Yes, fans are eagerly waiting for it, but it's not like the game is losing player count massively. As a matter of fact, most people have already finished Dying Light 2 and have it on the back burner for its DLC. Besides, only the most dedicated fans would be returning to the game after so many months anyway. So, with all the time on its hands, Techland really doesn't want to screw this one up, as it's probably the last chance at redemption for the dev, especially in the eyes of the mainstream audience. Of course, they've committed to supporting the game for many years to come, but if you fail to deliver twice, casual audiences aren't going to give you another chance. With that said, the delay should have also taken a lot of pressure off the devs' back as they continue to iron out the game's bugs while working on this DLC. There's clearly a lot going on there, so they'd need all the time they can get to really deliver a great expansion. On top of that, people are also expecting this upcoming content to make up for the strange story decisions in the original game. So, not only does this have to be more polished, but it's also got to be way more compelling narrative-wise. And fixing bugs should be the top priority. Over the past couple of months, Techland's released a ton of updates and patches for Dying Light 2. And while most of these have been targeted towards fixing all the lingering launch issues, they've also added extra stuff like a new Game Plus mode and booster events. With the upcoming DLC, however, they need to make sure that it's as polished as it gets. The delay to September gives them enough time to iron out any extra persisting issues while keeping the quality in check. After all, this is kind of new territory for the game, as the expansion's supposedly taking place outside the city. And according to Techland, this will allow players to jump straight in without even having to play the game's story. So, in theory, we're gonna get a lot of players who haven't seen Dying Light 2's original ending, which means they've kinda got a clean slate here. Not only that, but they're also developing extra stuff like a photo mode and community events on top of the story content. That'll obviously take away some resources. However, considering the fact that they've promised a 5-year update plan, none of these things should be as important as fixing the fundamental issues with the game. For instance, it's baffling that Dying Light 2 still doesn't run at a decent resolution with 60 FPS on current-gen consoles. Also, the PC performance has been kinda horrendous, and there has to be better optimization over there too. We've seen how hard it can be to pump content into a live service game while keeping on top of these issues. So if they prioritize the bugs and performance issues, then that'd eventually streamline the content side of things as well. All being said though, the fact that Techland's even putting in the time to really listen to fans and bring the features that they want the most means that they're on the right path. And a delay should never be a cause for concern for any game, let alone a solid one like Dying Light 2. After all, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. So fingers crossed, we'll be eating well come September later this year. Now in other related news, PS Plus games for June 2022 allegedly leaked. PlayStation Plus has been on a roll over the past year or so, offering some really good free games every single month. However, with the announcement of a new PS Plus, that momentum seems to have kinda stopped as the company is pivoting towards a more Game Pass-like approach. And as a result, all we got from May was FIFA 22, Tribes of Midgard, and Curse of the Dead Gods. Don't get us wrong, these aren't bad games by any stretch of the imagination, and FIFA 22 is actually massive, but these offerings are still nowhere near as good as they've been in the past. Now, as we head into June, fans have been expecting something big from PlayStation, especially adding the upcoming State of Play into the mix. According to a new leak, though, it's apparently going to be more of the same, and we're getting a mixed bag of games, much like in the past couple of months. The leak from the website Aria Jugones suggests that PlayStation Plus subs would be getting God of War, Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Striker, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Now, at first glance, all of these offerings actually seem really good. However, that joy kind of goes out of the door when you think about it for a second. Why? Well, for starters, God of War 2018 is already part of the PS Plus collection, and at this point, most PS4 players have probably played it as well. On top of that, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was one of those games that just came and went without making an impact. But hey, the inclusion of God of War could also mean that we're inching closer to Ragnarok, which will always be exciting. Next, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 could come to Steam on PC. After a pretty mediocre year with Vanguard, Call of Duty fans can't wait to get their hands on the next game from Infinity Ward, Modern Warfare 2. Presumably set after the events of the first game, this second entry in the reboot franchise seems to have a greater focus on the characters, especially with all the marketing around the return of Ghost. One fascinating detail that eagle-eyed fans have spotted with the game's marketing, though, is the fact that it might actually come to Steam. For context, Call of Duty games on PC are only available on Battle.net these days, so this will be a first for the series since 2017's World War II. How do we know it's coming to Steam? Well, the game's artwork was spotted on the series' Steam page. Plus, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to anticipate this either, considering the fact that it's going to be an Xbox franchise soon, and they like releasing their games on Valve's platform. Lastly, Gran Turismo 7 quietly increases the legend car price. Gran Turismo 7 had a pretty rocky launch thanks to a lot of network issues and a super aggressive monetization model. Most good cars in the game require you to either spend real money or grind for hours just to get enough credits. And even though payouts were increased in a later update, they were still not quite enough to fully satisfy everyone. However, it seems like rather than fixing the issue, Polyphony has kinda gone the other way and has increased the prices of legendary cars yet again. In an update that was quietly rolled out over the weekend, cars like Ferrari F40 have almost doubled in price, going from 1.35 million credits to 2.6 million. Now, hopefully this is just a mistake, but knowing how hard Sony was pushing the monetization for this game, we wouldn't hedge our bets on it. That's a wrap for this video. Do Gran Turismo's aggressive microtransactions ruin the overall experience for you? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.